Good morning and welcome to It's How You'll Be Remembered. I am Julie Jones, your host and the CEO of Today's Professionals. And today I am happy to have as our guest today Kathy Motlek she's all the way from Chicago. Kathy, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Julie. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. And I, have to say we met networking. We were connected by the lovely Tiffany Alexander, who is such a great connector of people and wonderful, amazing human being.
She really is. She's so delightful. I really enjoy her so much. Every time I talk to her, she's just so delightful.
I know. And she just is doing great things in the world.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful to Tiffany for connecting us and glad that you are here. You and I have had a couple of conversations and we just really feel like we're on the same page. And so today we are talking about emotional intelligence. And we were talking just before we came on about, how emotional intelligence is important to all of us. You've got IQ, which is your ability to learn, and that really feeds what I call your technical skills or your hard skills. And then you have EQ, which is emotional intelligence, which really feeds your people skills and your ability to connect with others. And so, and I know you've done a lot of research on this as well.
Absolutely. Emotional intelligence is one of the most important things that escapes our entire education system from the very beginning. So this is something that Think Virtues is very passionate about. Is really we start inculcating
Mhm.
this very important skill in kids and all the way up through people in their 80s and 90s, because it really helps you thrive in life. And 90%, more than 90% of leadership is all about emotional intelligence. And
Yeah.
the more skilled you are in this in being able to understand, having metacognition, being able to understand not only yourself but also those around you, and approach the world with a lens of empathy and
Mhm.
compassion versus
Mhm.
what's in it for me and the organization.
Yeah.
Ultimately the organization is going to win
Yeah.
because we depend. I mean, I call the workforce really the life force of an organization. And when you relate to them on a human to human level in a meaningful way that's truly authentic,
Mhm.
then that leads to a much more successful organization all the way around. So it's a very, very important skill, and it's something that Think Virtues is very passionate about, and we make sure that everybody learns. It's self-regulation is really important.
Yeah, so important, so important, and I want to say too, welcome to everyone watching from YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Let us know that you're here if you're watching us live, and if you are catching us on the replay, make sure you comment and chime in. We want to hear from you. We'll be checking the comments throughout the week on this, and we want to know your thoughts on emotional intelligence. And I think, first of all, I mean, let's get to the heart of it. Really, research shows that 85% of a person's success comes from your ability to connect with others, and that really leads to your emotional intelligence, right?
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
It's you if you're dysregulated, we cannot avoid anxiety and stress. It's all the way around us.
Yeah. And a little bit of it is good. A
Yeah.
little is
Well,
good.
I mean, a little bit of it is caused by our own inaction at certain things, and
Yep.
sometimes things become an emergency, and then you have to address it right away, and that causes anxiety and stress. But anxiety and stress is there in the world. But so the ability to navigate the
Mhm.
world with a level of grace and integrity
Mhm.
really depends on our ability to self-regulate, and that takes understanding of how the world occurs to us, what
Mhm.
emotions are, how they're
Mhm.
risen, and how to regulate them, how to
Right.
move from sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system quickly, And you can do that. Our bodies are miraculous. We have everything we need. Our bodies are like a chemistry lab.
Mhm.
Give rise to all kinds of elements that help us. We have our breathing, which is a great tool to self-regulate. It can even have as much of an impact as some of the pharmaceuticals out there that are
Mhm.
that are there for anxiety and stress. So yeah, so it's a very, very important topic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it deserves attention. It's one of the components that we train leadership on
Mhm.
first, because if you don't understand the whole concept, which and it's nobody's fault really, because it hasn't been in our radar. We worry so much about the skills that we need for the job, and we should.
Mhm.
um, but this has been considered soft skills. But you ask any neuroscientist, any psychologist, any psychiatrist who does work in the space, who does research in the space, they will tell you that it's not soft skills. These are necessary skills.
Right, right. That's what I always say. It's not, you cannot avoid the people skills, the human element
Hmm.
of relationships anymore. As a matter of fact, hold on, that was the wrong one. Research shows that EQ accounts for nearly 90% of what sets high performing leaders apart from their peers. So, we always ask, like, why is it some leaders are just fantastic, everyone loves them, and then other leaders just kind of like, eh. And it is their emotional intelligence. It's their ability to connect with others, to self-regulate their emotions, and then turn the attention to someone else with empathy, kindness, and really just understanding somebody else's point of view.
Hmm.
Agree with this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other side of emotional intelligence is, once you take the time and gain metacognition, and that is the understanding of yourself, your self-awareness, how the world occurs to you, your emotions, etc.
Right.
The next thing is that's really important is self-care, self-regulation, self-compassion, self-love, self-grace, giving ourselves grace. uh,
Mhm.
because it is only in the space where we love ourselves, we have self-compassion, that
Mhm.
we can extend that to others. So leadership, when the minute you start to talk about emotional intelligence, and particularly if they haven't heard about the topic for leadership
Mhm.
specifically, then they just kind of like, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, 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 no. Don't think that there's anything wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It's just an additional skill that needs to be learned. And
Right.
it
And
can
you
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it can be learned. So,
exactly.
and strengthened over time. So,
Mhm.
some of the ways that we typically train is we teach that there are four ways that we're taught growing up, just picked up by being around other people. Four ways that we process emotions, none of which is the healthy way to process emotions.
Right,
one is
right.
one is to suppress. One is to repress, which is unconscious suppression. One is
Mhm.
to avoid it altogether. Oh, this doesn't feel good. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I can't worry about this right now. And the other one is to be reactive to the person. So express it to the person who, for example, upset you,
Yeah,
whether in an aggressive way or passive aggressive way or whatever way, in an angry way. And those are not healthy ways of processing emotion. So,
right,
it's really important to know that those are not you're not being kind to yourself when you're doing that to
yeah,
negative emotions.
yeah,
um, and to once you realize it, then take the next step is, what is the healthy way, and
right.
start to habituate those. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think that it's very, very important. It's the most important skill, because look, when you're triggered, all of your executive functions are out the door, all of
mhm.
your morality and your values are out the door.
Yeah,
Therefore, you make poor decisions that are
yeah.
costly.
Yes. Yes,
So,
that's true.
yeah.
Real quick before we go on, Mandy Eski, I think is the way you say that. Mandy, good morning. I'm glad that you are here. Thank you for chiming in. We're happy that you're here. Let us know what you think about emotional intelligence and how are you using it in your job? How is it helping you?
And I'd love to answer any questions too if
Yeah,
anybody has
yeah,
questions.
yeah. The other thing that I think is really important to note about leadership before we move on is that research also shows a study of Fortune 500 companies is that they when they invest in emotional intelligence training, they see increases like substantial increases in revenue and team performance because I think and I preach this all the time. People want to feel valued and heard, and they don't leave jobs, they leave managers. And most of the time, it's because there's some type of conflict or a person doesn't feel valued or there's something going on that and so sometimes you have companies that just have revolving doors with employees, people coming in, people leaving, and really it doesn't have to be that way if you are trained in emotional intelligence and you know how to reach people.
Precisely.
Because people will stay at a job for less money. Like money is not the most important thing for everybody. It is for some people, but for most people, they'll stay at a job for intangible rewards,
Absolutely.
recognition, feeling good about going to work every day, liking the people that they work with, feeling good about the team that they're on.
Mhm.
Just being happy
Mhm.
is really more valuable to people than money in
Mhm.
most instances.
Absolutely. You're 100% accurate, Julie. In fact, I mean, when you start to work with leaders, it's just an outcome of leadership development and and emotional intelligence
Mhm.
that performance is increased. Another thing that gets increased is innovation and creativity, which is critical. If you
Mhm.
want to succeed in today's economy, innovation and creativity, you don't have to be an IT company or a design company to need innovation. You'll constantly have to get better at delivering what you do, have new ideas, new ways, new strategies, and
Yeah,
those will not be available to you if you're running an organization that
yeah,
is, in stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. That's just not
right,
going to be available to you,
right.
unfortunately. And so that obviously impacts their revenue. So
Mhm.
a lot of times leaders don't have this perspective. They don't see this side of it. So they think that what they need to do is work harder. And of course, when you work harder under the same conditions,
Mhm.
that's when you witness your life force is suffering. And the consequence of that is low performance, lots of conflict, and no innovation or creativity.
Yeah,
So attention and engagement goes down, and that's why engagement is so low among organizations. And there's such a disconnect because when they do surveys on are employees happy, the answer is absolutely not. We're not engaged. And then when they interview the leaders think that they're doing a great job and that their employees are very engaged. So there's such a massive disconnect,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's just lack of metacognition, lack of
yeah.
lack of
Just
self-awareness and awareness of the whole situation.
yes, 100%. Mandy says, happy to be here. We are happy you are here as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think people want to be happy, and that emotional intelligence goes a long way into creating buy-in and engagement from people. And so you have to be able to receive information coming from the team or the field employees. Hey, we're seeing this to
Mhm.
validate that and say, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Well, if you're not in the field, then you don't know. So they're bringing you solutions to problems. And I know when I was in a plumbing company, I used to say, don't bring me a problem unless you have a solution to go with it. There's other research out there. Teams with high emotional intelligence have better communication, higher trust, and greater collaboration, which is exactly what you are saying right now. I was working with a client a while back, and they were redoing their mission and vision statement, core values. They were kind of doing like a reset. They were wanting to redo and update. And so I suggested that they go to their team and get input. Like, what do you think the core values are that you see of this company? What are some things that are important to you for mission as management and team leaders are creating this and going through this process? Let's get feedback from the field. And the response was, well, this is my company. Shouldn't this be my vision? Shouldn't it be my mission? Shouldn't it be my core values? I said, well, yes. I mean, obviously, you want the company to reflect you and your personal brand and all of that.
Yeah.
But don't you want to have something bigger than you?
Yeah.
Don't you want it to be a place where people come to you and feel that they have had input, that they have a stake in the company, and that this is as much theirs as it is yours?
Yeah.
And that was what I call mindset switch.
Yeah.
People get busy in their lives and they start working.
Yes.
And they forget, oh, there's people out there who are wanting to participate.
Yes.
And so going through that process with the team was very helpful into creating a mission, vision statement, core values that really was updated to reflect the entire company and not just the owner.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Another thing I would add when it comes to emotional intelligence is not so much we're being worried about checking the box. Like the minute leaders hear about this notion and look at the studies, they go, "Well, we got to do something." It's emotional intelligence is a strategy, and it's a strategy that needs to be carried out for a long period of time, and it is far more than mindfulness.
Yeah.
So much attention and so much. I mean, it's really an inexpensive way to address what they think is emotional, what leaders falsely think is emotional intelligence, because and implement mindfulness. And mindfulness without emotional intelligence has a downside.
Yeah.
Because if you're full of anxiety and stress, the mind moves at 1/10,000 of a second. And you ask that person to be mindful from a teacher who's had years of mindfulness practices, who has a pretty good life, likely doesn't have a lot of anxiety and stress that isn't already managed because they are already highly skilled in emotional intelligence,
Right.
Coming in with a very zen persona, energy and delivery, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Yes.
So yeah.
Mandy says the best leadership that I've had throughout my career has been with managers that connect on an emotional level and genuinely care about their people. Yes. Without emotional and intellectual connection, you lose the ability to creatively think and express yourself. Yes, that 100%, Mandy, you are right. And I wanted to also, we've got Greg Riley in the house. Greg, thank you for joining us. So glad you are here. Some people can't say the emperor has no clothes, which is why the leader has no clue. Yeah, from a servant leadership perspective, right? I mean, you just have to really tune in to your people and know what they're thinking. And if you don't know, if you're not engaged with your team and you're not, putting yourself aside and controlling those emotions and say it's about the company, it's something bigger than myself, then yeah, you do have no clue.
Yeah.
And then
One
also,
thing yeah. One thing that Mandy said that I want to highlight, she said genuinely. Authenticity is a huge, so kudos to you, Mandy. I think that's very observant, very very, very, yeah. I mean, being genuine, having that genuine level of care, that authentic authenticity is really critical in this whole process because you can't just act. You can't
Yes.
you can't just learn. Communication skill is very important, but without the component of authenticity, you're just learning
Mhm,
techniques, tactics,
mhm,
and gimmicks, what to
mhm.
say. And that just doesn't land because people really have to feel connected to you
Yeah.
on an emotional level with really in a deep way when they know for sure that you're really actually care for them. Thank you,
Yes.
Sandy.
Yeah. Mandy, that's great. Thank you. And thank you for that. Aaron, I'm not really sure um, what link you're talking about. Could you come back in and say which link you're needing? We will be happy to put whatever links we have in here. So just let us know which one you're looking for. And glad you're here. Thanks, Aaron, for coming and for commenting. Greg says, how can leaders authentically build emotional connection with their teams while maintaining authority and driving performance? In your opinion, inclusion is key, especially to be connected to the mission and vision of the business.
Thank
Yes. And so I think you're right. Including them and really, I think for me, good leaders, if we talk about leadership with emotional intelligence, we're talking about rolling up your sleeves and not sitting in your palace.
Yes.
Rolling up your sleeves and being with your employees, asking them what's going on, making them feel not like a top down management, like I get to do this, but you have to do that.
Yeah.
It's just it has to do with empathy, and really putting yourself aside.
Yeah.
You said some leaders have too much stars in their shirts, meaning they assume they know it all. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, Greg,
100%.
you asked a very, very important question about how do leaders authentically build emotional connection with their teams? That's a very, very important question because we have a course called Power of Authenticity where we walk each leader to their authentic power. Uh,
Mhm.
and most people think of authenticity as I'm just as I am.
Right.
This is, I'm being as I am. And oftentimes that does not land. And in your case,
Mhm.
you've already said in your next statement that they have too much, you come across arrogant, you come across too much starch in their shirt, meaning that they think that they know it all and
Mhm.
all they're doing. So there's a level of disconnect when someone
Mhm.
has not, a leader has not tapped into their true authenticity. And the
Yeah.
true authenticity is void of pretense, void of egoic positionality. It's void of not understanding ourselves and looking at the world through a lens by which we can only relate to, which is our
Right.
own self-perception. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of different moving parts that need to be considered when we're assessing our authenticity. And when you do, everything else is a natural consequence of that, is a natural it's the next step. So your communication becomes better, your leadership becomes better, elevated, I should say, um, and you become even more successful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obviously the leaders out there are experiencing success. They're doing a great job, and I don't want to say that they're not, but there's these different things that need to be considered in leadership training that hasn't been considered because by default we think that, oh, I'm just being myself. That's not true. That is absolutely false, and that shows in the disconnect between Gallup polls of people who work for an organization and leaders who they report to. There's a massive disconnect, and that is lack of authenticity, lack of emotional intelligence. So thank you for that, Greg.
Yeah, that's very
Answer your
good. And
question?
and I would like to add on, in my leadership training courses, we start by understanding you. And that process communication model really, we dive into what are your emotional needs?
Mhm.
What are your psychological needs? How do you communicate and how do you react when you're under stress so that you start to learn and recognize when you're in distress and what you can do to pull yourself out of it. Because what we know is when people are in distress, you can't have authentic productive communication, you have to really come to a positive life state where both people in the conversation have to be in positive life states. And so not only do we teach how to recognize you when you're going into distress and how to pull yourself out of it, but we also teach you how to recognize other people's signs of distress and how to lift them up so that we can start to come together, solve problems, resolve conflicts, and really then starts that understanding piece. But that would be my starting point, is really beginning to understand you.
Love it.
Mandy says, leaders gain respect by connecting and including their people. Amen to that. And they don't need authority when they have respect. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I want to add on to this. You don't have to hold people accountable when you have a culture where everybody holds themselves accountable. So then you are removed from the micromanaging, because now you've created this environment where everybody does what they're supposed to and they're holding themselves accountable. How cool is that? So thank you for that. Kathy, I know you probably want to add into some of this as well.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely right on. I mean, its authority is really reflected by how much a person or leader is respected, and respect
Yes.
is reflected
Yeah.
on how much you relate to others and how you add value to others. I mean, as leaders, we are here to add value to others
Mhm.
and help
Yep.
them, help
Yep.
elevate, and training them is part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Training them through leadership. Less than 5% of leaders actually get leadership training, Julie. I mean,
Yeah.
that's profound. And once they do, once they invest, they know that they will see that they get
Mhm.
their return on investment is so much. It's
Yes.
100%,
Yeah.
110%,
Yeah.
200%,
Yeah. Yeah.
300.
Well, Zig Ziglar says we don't build companies, we
Yeah.
build people, and then people build companies. And that to me, I mean, I quote Zig Ziglar all the time, but that is really spot on. And when you are a leader, when you are an entrepreneur, you own a company, or you're in a position to really take a company to the next level, the way you do it is hire the people that share your values and mission, and they fit in culturally, and then you train the skill. I mean,
Yes.
that's what you do. Greg
Yeah.
says, thank you for the session, and it's a great subject because leaders need coaching and to always improve in the area. Amen. Before I became a success coach, when I was a leader, there would be a 2-hour training, and the top leaders think you know it, which is the wrong approach. Yes. Coaching continues to grow leaders.
And
Yes.
and I would say that the more successful you are, the more coaching you need.
Yeah.
And
You
and
always need a coach.
and I'm I'm sure you are too. I'm constantly hiring coaches, different coaches for different things, different agencies for different things, because
Yep.
people bring their expertise to you.
Yep.
And I've had coaches younger than me, I've had coaches older than me, I've had coaches from all kinds of, I've been coached since I graduated from college. My
Mhm.
mother gifted me my very first coaching program, and I've been hooked ever since. So
Yeah. Yeah. And coaching is new for me.
yeah,
I didn't have coaching until I got my own business, until I
yeah,
opened my own business, because I was always in education.
yeah.
And we see emotional intelligence in education in all fields, but education, those teachers who have the most successful students, who have the fewer classroom behavior issues and higher test scores and happier students, and everyone is happy, those teachers have great emotional intelligence. That, that's it, emotional intelligence can be taught. And there are programs out there. You have one, I have one, and we probably have more than that. But that's really the heart of what we both do,
Yeah.
is to really coach people to be better. It Time goes by so fast.
It sure
Um,
it sure does.
yeah, Thank you for this great interaction we had today, Greg and Mandy and Aaron. I'm so glad that you are here. If you're watching the replay, be sure and comment. We want to hear what you think too. And Kathy, I'm so grateful for your time as well. And the name of this live is it's how you'll be remembered, because back when I was just an etiquette, before I did anything else, my tagline was, it's not just etiquette, it's how you'll be remembered. And so I like to always ask, how will you be remembered, Kathy?
I hope that I'm remembered by the value I add to the different leaders that I've had the honor and privilege of working with, and the attention that we bring as an organization, not just me, but as an organization, on consciousness, on the importance of virtues and importance of love, self-love, and really a community of really togetherness and unity. So love and unity is how I'd like to be remembered.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I definitely think that is how you will be remembered. And we are so grateful to have you join us today. Thank you for your time and your expertise. It is always good to talk to you. And I hope that you'll come back sometime.
Ditto, my friend. Thank you, Julie, for having me. It's been so much fun interacting with you and the guests, and with the great questions and comments. It's been a lot of fun. I'd love to do it, and I'd love to have you on our show too.
Absolutely. Would love that. And Mandy says, thank you so much. Great session. Glad that you were here. And we will.